One of the most famous legends from Mafia lore is that a young John Gotti earned his button for the Gambino family by murdering one of the men who kidnapped and killed Don Carlo's nephew. This became popularized in the 1996 HBO Gotti movie, where Gambino summons Gotti to directly give him the order. But how true is it? In this video, we will go behind the kidnapping racket that saw made men being abducted off the streets for ransoms. We'll also dig into what really happened to Don Carlo's nephew Manny, explore John Gotti's first recorded murder, and how they all tie in together. In the 1970s, New York City saw a wave of kidnappings, though virtually none were reported to the police because the victims were all either made members or associates of Cosa Nostra. Cheating a mobster out of money, or even having him owe you a lot for legitimate reasons, could be a death sentence. So it takes someone who is both bold, crazy, and maybe even stupid to make this racket work. Not complete idiot stupid, as you need to be fairly clever to pull this off, but at the same time, you also need to be pretty dumb to even consider trying it. Eddie Maloney fit this description. He was a career criminal from the Irish underworld, whose resume mostly included jewelry heists. In the early 1970s, he was doing a stretch at Greenhaven State Prison in New York. It was here that he met fellow Irish hoodlum James McBratney, who was locked up for armed robbery. McBratney was 6'3" and weighed 250 pounds. The man was a powerhouse in terms of strength, and his favorite activity to pass the time then was to weightlift. It's been said that he could bench press 400 pounds. McBratney would find himself dead on the floor of a Staten Island bar in a few years, but for now, he seemed to have his life ahead of him. Besides being a career criminal, he was also a family man. His wife and 2 small kids would visit him regularly, and he dreamed of one day opening his own nightclub. Of course, he didn't have the seed money to do so, so he and Maloney would often talk about heists they could pull someday. And they also discussed guns. If McBratney ever had the money, he would become a firearms collector. By October of 1972, both men were back on the streets and up to their old, unreformed ways. Around this time, Maloney was approached by Flippo and Ronnie Miano. Both men were part of the Gambino family, and they had a proposal for their Irish friend. They wanted to organize a kidnapping racket. This wasn't going to be the abduction of law-abiding citizens from the street. Instead, they wanted these Irish gangsters to go after Italian gangsters. Their motive for this was primarily revenge. In their minds, these guys had screwed them over in the past, and it would give them pleasure to see these greedy men suffer. The arrangement was simple. They would provide names, general information, plus insider information of where the targets will be. In exchange, they would get a 10% cut of the ransom. Maloney brought in McBratney, plus he expanded the gang to include Tommy Genovese, Warren Sherman, and Richie Chasson. Their first job was the kidnapping of Frankie Carbo, who was a capo in the Lucchese family. It went as well as it could go for everyone. Carbo was released unharmed for 150 grand, while no one knew who any of the gang were. Maloney later claimed that they repeated this 3 more times. But the problem with doing risky illegal activities repeatedly is that one day the statistics will go against you. Either you will get caught by the law, or something will go horribly wrong. For these men, it was the latter. On December 28, 1972, the group targeted a Gambino loan shark named Junior. They cornered him on the street and pulled a gun. Junior resisted getting into their car, forcing Maloney to hit him a few times. As they drove away, they were followed by two witnesses who saw the kidnapping. They managed to escape, but the witnesses recorded their license plates and passed the information to Junior's associates. It didn't take long for the mob to track the car to one of Maloney's friend's mothers, whom they had borrowed it from. After some scary men paid her a visit, she gave them Maloney and Sherman's names. Afraid that the mob now knew who they were, they accepted a small ransom of $21,000 to release Junior. But things got even worse for the kidnap gang. The plan was for them to take Junior out of the apartment he was held in and then drop him off on a random street corner after a long drive. To protect themselves, Sherman was supposed to cover Junior's eyes with tape and then place sunglasses over them, but he neglected to do that. As they drove, McBratney realized that Junior could see, and he ordered the car to stop. Junior managed to escape from the car, and McBratney tried to shoot him, but missed. In the confusion, Sherman also jumped out of the car and ran, scared of what McBratney was going to do to him. Maloney tried to convince McBratney that he should leave New York for his own safety, but the man refused to. A few days later, Maloney and Sherman were drinking in a bar when two well-dressed Italian men came in asking for them by name. The bartender covered for them and said they were not there while each man silently watched, knowing that their time was running out. Shortly after this, Maloney was back in prison on a parole violation. While he was in the can, he read about McBratney being shot to death by John Gotti and Angelo Ruggiero in 1973. Kidnapping members of the Gambino family for ransom is a mafia death sentence in itself, but in the case of Manny Gambino, a murder and extortion plot coincided with when the kidnapping ring was doing their racket, and this had led to some confusion as to what really happened and who was to blame. Manny Gambino's full name was Emmanuel, and his father was Giuseppe Gambino, the younger brother of Don Carlo. Giuseppe went by the Americanized version of his name, which was Joe. And there is no definitive evidence that Carlo's younger brother was in the Mafia like their other brother, Paul Gambino. But Manny was, and he was on the path to becoming a made man as soon as the books reopened. Manny's primary occupation in the mob was that he was a loan shark, and there were rumors that he had a lot of money on the street. More business than what the average guy in his position did, and his associates were worried for him, as that much cash could make you a target for violent criminals who did not care who your uncle was. Manny Gambino is rumored to have had 2 households to support, which is why he needed so much money. In addition to his wife Diane, he also had a mistress who has been described as a showbiz blonde. He was head over heels for this woman, and she gave him an ultimatum: leave his wife for her or give up on the affair. Apparently, he wanted to choose the mistress, but was advised by his mafia elders that he needed to grow up and get his head together. In their circle, it was okay to cheat on your wife, but it was not okay to divorce her. Manny Gambino was last seen on the morning of May 18, 1972, when he left his home in Flushing, Queens. 1 week later, on May 25th, Diane received a letter where she was told that if she wanted to see her husband alive again, then she needed to pay them $350,000. They warned her that if he died, then the killing would be on her conscience for not paying them. Traditionally, the Mafia prefers to handle these types of matters on their own, and their code prevents them from cooperating or even talking to the police. But they also constantly find logical reasons to break their code of honor, and in this case, either Joe Gambino urged the family to contact the FBI for help since he may not have been a mobster, or maybe even Don Carlo gave his blessing, as he knew from personal experience after being surveilled constantly for 15 years that the government had a lot of resources at their disposal. Either way, the FBI was brought on board to help, and many agents saw this as an opportunity to get a glance at the opaque world of Cosa Nostra. Agents urged the family to cooperate with the kidnappers in the hopes of getting a slip-up that would lead to their identities. The family insisted that they did not have $350,000. To this day, the now retired agents still wonder if they really did not have the money because they were not into organized crime like the rest of the family, or if they were lying to avoid scrutiny from the IRS. The most they could come up with was 40 grand. The instructions in the note demanded that it be placed in triple garbage bags and then thrown over a specific overpass on the Palisades Parkway at a specific date on a specific time. Manny's brother Tommy drove the car with the money, while Special FBI Agent Anthony Villano sat in the front seat and threw the bag. The area of the drop was being staked out, but the agents who were supposed to observe the spot right after the throwing of the bag were not in their exact position, so they missed its recovery by the kidnappers. However, agents and local police recorded the license plates and car makes of the vehicles that entered the general area that night. One of the checks turned out to be a van that was rented to Robert Sentner. Sentner was a minor criminal who also owned a sports memorabilia store. For all the people they encountered that night, he was the only one who raised a red flag. They brought him in for questioning, but he refused to give anything away. He was a highly intelligent college graduate who didn't fit the mold for your average Mafia associate. But after talking to a few people on the street, they learned that Sentner owed Manny Gambino about $80,000 through his loan shark racket. Sentner denied this and continued to keep his mouth shut. The case went cold, and every few weeks, the FBI would bring Sentner in again for more questioning. They tried to make it friendly and served him beer to get his guard down, but the man kept up a strong wall of silence. Not only was Manny Gambino gone, but his car had also disappeared. This led to rumors in the underworld that he faked his own kidnapping so that he could run away with his mistress to another state and start a new life. While that rumor might have been shameful for his parents, it at least gave them hope that he was still alive somewhere. 6 months later in November, Manny's dusty and dirty car was discovered in the parking lot of Teterboro Airport. Apart from not being clean, it was missing a floor mat on the passenger side. While it might have been possible that he took a flight from there to disappear, diligent FBI agents had it impounded and dusted for fingerprints. They found Robert Sentner's on the driver's side window. Sentner was arrested on December 4th, and after staying silent for weeks, he broke down in January and led the agents to a landfill in Colts Neck, New Jersey. Manny Gambino's body was found in a 4-foot grave with the missing doormat, a pair of glasses, and a pair of yellow gloves. Sentner confessed that he had killed Manny Gambino. According to him, he lured Manny out to New Jersey under the false premise that they were going to pick up money so that he could repay his debt. On the way, Manny threatened that if Sentner did not pay back the money he owed, then Manny would go after his sister and the baby that she was pregnant with. Sentner claimed that this threat put him over the edge and he shot Manny at point-blank range in the head. He buried the body himself and then parked the car at the airport so that it might look plausible that Manny had taken a flight somewhere, and that's where he disappeared to. But, either motivated by greed or revenge, he decided that he wasn't done with Manny Gambino, so he planned to extort his family out of $350,000. And had the FBI not been brought in, he probably would have gotten away with it. Sentner did not act alone in the kidnapping plot. He had help from his friends, John Kilcullen and Warren Sherman. Warren Sherman is the same man who was part of Eddie Maloney's kidnapping crew. These men were also arrested. On June 1, 1973, Sentner pled guilty to manslaughter and was sentenced to 15 years in prison. These charges were light on account that he cooperated with police and turned in his accomplices. In 1974, Robert Sentner was poisoned while in prison, but he was brought to the infirmary and survived. It's believed that after his release, he was relocated to South Carolina. In 2017, an 81-year-old man named Henry Robert Sentner was pulled over for speeding in Wyoming, and 35 pounds of marijuana were found in the trunk of his car. His age and name matched the description of the man who killed Manny Gambino. He was charged with felony possession and intent to distribute marijuana. He was freed on bail and may still be alive today. The kidnapping ring that Eddie Maloney ran with James McBratney would be forgotten about today had it not been tied in to John Gotti's rise through the Mafia ranks. What McBratney is most remembered about today is for how he died. While McBratney had nothing to do with Manny Gambino's death and disappearance, his associate Warren Sherman did, and that link would prove to be deadly for McBratney. Carlo Gambino and the rest of the Mafia had believed for months that Manny was kidnapped first and then killed when the ransom was lighter than what was demanded. And knowing that there was a string of mob-related kidnappings happening in 1972, Don Carlo deduced that the same people that took and nearly killed Junior were the same people, or at least related to the people that killed his nephew. And he could not let any of this go because it would make him and his organization appear weak. So when James McBratney's name made its way to the boss of the Gambino family's ear, he gave the contract to his underboss, Neil Della Croce, who then gave it to John Gotti. Gotti, along with Angelo Ruggiero and Ralph Gallioni, tracked McBratney down to a bar in Staten Island. The plan was to pose as cops and pretend to arrest him. Then, when they got him alone, they were supposed to kill him. The plan started to fall apart when other bar patrons became hostile during the fake arrest and McBratney fought back. The man was huge and incredibly strong. He was too powerful for Gotti and Ruggiero to fight, so Gallioni shot him 3 times in the chest. They fled the crime scene, but were later identified by witnesses through their mugshots. This incident was an important step in John Gotti's rise. While he was the already acting captain of the Bergen Avenue crew, this murder and his willingness to go to prison for it put him in favor with Don Carlo, while also exposing him to the other factions of the family in a positive light. James McBratney didn't kill any of his kidnapping victims, but through coincidence, he caught the blame for Manny Gambino's murder in the Mafia's eyes. But death was a risk he undertook in his actions, and in the end, he never got to open the nightclub he dreamed about. Eddie Maloney was released from prison, and he later wrote an autobiography about his life called Tough Guy, where much of the knowledge about their kidnapping ring comes from.